here's what, were there any questions from last week? Because last week there was a lot going on. There was safe zone training. We were dealing with a little fearful babies. Who's been trying safe zone training this week? And how's that been going?
Good. Yeah, I tried it with Gaga and Beyonce. The new, they look like twin foxhounds in the back and healthy hold. So you may not be able to work healthy hold, but anyway, and it really helped with them. Not that they did come forward. One came forward more than the other by throwing treats further, and I kept on doing it. And one liked the treats I had, and one didn't. And but it allowed me to go and then hook them up, even though they still stayed away. Hook them up, take them for a walk.
So one of the things that I want to say is it's not like one session knocks this one out of the park. You know, these dogs have come with serious baggage, and so having one positive experience with a human being who respects their space is not going to erase the steamer trunk of baggage that they potentially have. So I think what can be really hard about this work, especially when the dog, you know, it's not like you have total control over this dog's environment. You don't, right? You come here for your volunteer shift. You have this kind of moment. It can be hard to see progress. And I should be encouraging you all to keep journals on all the dogs you work with. But as someone who has been unable to do so, and I'm a professional trainer, I can't really get on you about that. But you know what's cool is now everyone's got their smartphone, so you can always do a little videoing, which I think, like I thought your videoing was, so there's a perfect example of respecting space. So what dog were you working with again? What was that little dog? Bo. So Bo was not liking the stairs. And Bo, little feral dog, Bo not at all convinced human beings are okay, but we're winning him over slowly but surely. Yeah, and so I came in one day unrelated. Was I meeting with you? I was meeting with someone. No, it was a therapy dog thing. You were on vacation. And I ran into Bo dealing with the stairs and not dealing with them well. Not dealing with them well. So one of the things that I advised was rather than forcing him up and down the stairs, to give him the space to make choices, and food motivation was an issue because he wasn't very food motivated. So why don't you explain what you did?
Well, it was actually Pam was for the week, so let Pam tell you what she did.
Good, Pam, what'd you do?
Well, I would take him just over by the stairs, and we'd get as close as he felt comfortable.
That right there is the key statement. As close as he felt comfortable, right? So every time he worked with Pam, every single lesson he had, what was reinforced was, I get a vote. My vote counts. Someone respects my fear.
And they also have a relationship with Bo for a long time beforehand.
Which is awesome. So
well,
that made all this possible.
The unbelievable thing about it was, like, I did this like 3 or 4 times. And, you know, he'd buck a little bit, and then we'd get a little closer, and he'd buck. The 3rd time, I was standing at the base of the stairs talking to some lady, and all of a sudden I felt the leash tug, and Bo was going up the stairs, and I'm like, oh my God! I was like totally blown away. And he's looking at me like, what's the big deal? And I'm like giving him hot dogs.
And see, I think it was interesting too that the moment you had kind of the breakthrough, you were not even working with him.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah. Your agenda completely removed.
Yes.
So he felt no pressure. Because even when you try to be all zen about it, in your head you're like, please go up the stairs, please. Just one second, please. Like, you know, you kind of do the mind meld. It's like, would you please go up the stairs, you know? And I mean, I find it's really helpful to have some sort of distraction, you know, and you just happened upon it. But you know, and then when you have a dog that voluntarily takes that leap of faith, they own that in a way they don't any other behavior. I mean, it's like, I can do stairs, right? Like now I can really do it. And
now
then
do an exercise ramp out the back.
Yeah.
He did it once yesterday for us.
very cool.
Same trick, hot
Now he's doing
dogs.
the ramp.
Very
If
cool.
he doesn't want to go, we just go around, but he did the ramp yesterday.
Very cool.
And
Very
I
cool.
took him, I've walked him before, but never tried the stairs, and I thought, I'll try the stairs today with him. No problem, ran up them and ran back down them.
Yep.
Nothing solidifies fear faster than having your vote taken away.
So Devin, that being said, not to stay on this topic, but like the dogs that Nancy was talking about, and that we were talking about it initially, that, you know, cower in the back of their kennel, is it better just to do a few minutes of the training and then just walk away? Versus, you know what, sweetie, if you don't come out now, you're not gonna get out for 24 more hours. What's the best thing to do in that?
So helpfully, I'm gonna say it depends. Right, so that was really helpful. I think, when I say that it depends, there are some dogs that are so shut down, so kind of traumatized, that it almost doesn't matter what you do. Like, if you take them out, it's not gonna increase their trauma, because they're just kind of in shut down, freak out mode. Then there are the dogs, and you know those dogs, because you can see it in their face, you can see it in their body language. They're just, talk about learned indifference. They are just they're so traumatized, they're sort of in shock. And so if you physically manipulate them and move them in and out, they're just going to sort of float. You know, they're not even, it's not going to impact them. Then there's the dogs that are starting to kind of find themselves a little bit, and the thinkers. You can sort of see them kind of start sort of seesawing on, do I not trust this? Do I trust this? Those are the dogs that I think forcing them can really set you back hugely. So in that case, it's like, I know that your goal is to get them outside. And I think it's an awesome goal because, you know, sunshine, ground, I mean, yeah, I mean, there's amazing things outside. And I would totally be torn with some dogs, and look, I know I'm about to traumatize you for about 30 seconds, but you're gonna be really grateful when you're getting outside, right? Like, I mean, I totally get that. But I think that there's more at stake than just getting them outside, because these are dogs that have to, if they're going to be successfully adopted and successful in their new home, they have got to successfully work with people, and that's trust. And so I think sometimes it's makes more sense and ends up in the big picture being better for the individual to play that game for 2 or 3 days, and they're gonna start seeing other dogs come in. They're gonna pick up the scent from outside from other dogs. They're gonna start getting a little bit more balance just in this new environment, and they might be more inclined to take more chances. But if they trust you, they're definitely gonna take more chances. You know, and I think that's what's really interesting about Bella. You know, there are people here that she does not like, that don't feel like she likes her. Looking at two of them, right? No, that's not shame. No, there's 2 people. You are not alone. You know, and we were talking earlier. Like, I think she's incredibly hard to read. I think that her demand barking and her fear barking, to me, sound identical. Now, if we lived with this dog and really knew this dog, we could probably tell the difference between that vocalization. But in the midst of everything going on, I think she's really hard to read. You know, has she ever actually tagged someone? Yeah. So this is something that I would say. She's had the opportunity to bite people and hasn't. That's... Did she bite you? Did she actually bite you?
No, I actually stopped her. She had the mouth open, but I actually was.
Okay, but we don't know if Ashley, I mean, we're not gonna recreate
do
this
something.
and test it.
Yeah, right.
Like, let's, you know what? Let's just throw you in there and see. No, I mean, Ashley might have stopped it, but this is a dog that's had a lot of opportunities to bite people and hasn't. That's really telling to me. Because this is a dog that's in stressful situations, has clearly been afraid, definitely has major worries about anything having to do with head. You know, we know that when you reach for the dog, when you try to mess with the dog at all, that way, like, oh, but I'm gonna do something nice and take you out for a walk. I mean, this is a dog that has huge sensitivities to that. She hasn't bitten anyone. Now, does that mean that I don't think she'll bite someone and, you know, hey, you know, ignore her warnings and go for it? That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is I always tell people, trust your gut. And if your gut says, then and that's okay, because there's other people here
Trust your gut
who...
if you know that works. I mean, trusting your gut. I mean, you're telling people trust their gut, and sometimes, you know, if you start all of a sudden now trusting your gut, you don't know what your gut is.
I don't think that's true. I think where danger's concerned, I mean, when you feel the red flag, I think the biggest mistake you can make is override it.
Yep,
I
exactly.
did that once,
I
and I
agree.
won't do it again.
And, you know, I just think it's a mistake
Okay,
you
you're
can make.
speaking very
I'm
specifically.
really, really respectful of dogs I don't know. I was here, I don't know if it was with orientation, and one of the dog walkers had lost one of the dogs, and it was out, and it was barking at all the outdoor dogs. And you were there, Robin, because I borrowed a leash from you. And the dog was really going at it. And I stood there thinking, I don't know this dog. I'm not going to reach for this dog because I don't know this dog. Now, if that had been a dog at, let's say, you know, my training camp or my version of daycare, I know those dogs.
Right.
So I would have very happily slipped my hand under their tummy, behind their back legs, and just said, no, we're going this way. Like, you're not going to do that. So, you know, you very often here, you are working with dogs you don't know.
Yeah.
And so you've got to be careful.
Yeah.
Because if you guess wrong, who's been bitten by a dog? Yeah, it's horrible.
Yeah.
They're,
Hurts like hell.
yeah, because, you know, they're really powerful. Those jaws are really powerful. And I don't care if it's a Chihuahua, you know, or a Great Dane, powerful jaws. And no one likes to be bitten. And when you were bitten, didn't you feel totally stupid? Oh my God, I was so overwhelmed by feeling stupid when I get bitten. I'm like, and I had an electrician out yesterday, and he goes, whenever I shock myself, it's always, the client's always watching, and I'm always embarrassed. And I'm like, the same thing happens when I get bitten. People hire me for aggression cases, and you'd think I'd know better than to be bitten, but you know, we all make educated guesses, and sometimes we guess wrong. So, here's what we're gonna do today. I think one of our big problems getting in and out of kennels is that for the dogs in the kennel, the highly reinforcing zone is the door. That's where people are coming and going, that's where new smells are, that's where dogs are going through. And so one of the things that at the very least at the end of this training, my hope is that everyone could spend 10 treats a day sending dogs away from that zone, teaching them that the back can be just as reinforcing as the front. And that's what you end up doing when you throw treats, right? So here's what I want to do. I brought cheese sticks. I have other goodies too, but I think it's so nice to have your own individual cheese stick. So I brought cheese sticks. And we're going to start on the right side, which is the quieter, supposedly quieter side. I don't know. Heather always gets that side. She's getting the plum gig, so we're heading over there. Shout out to Hev. So what I want to do is I want to charge the clicker for all the dogs. So how many dogs are in a run there? How many? Eight?
Maybe 8 or 10.
All right, so that means there's going to be 8 people with a clicker and with a stick of cheese. And if you want ham, I have it, and if you want meatballs, I have it. I have other stuff. I gave it. And I want to do about 10 click, throw the treat behind. Click, throw the treat behind, click, throw the treat behind. So I want to charge the clicker, and I want to reinforce moving away. Then what I want to do is I want one person, and we'll figure out who that person is, and I want to start with a non-reactive dog, because here's the thing, when you're trying to figure out your skills and practice your skills, you've got to start with the easiest dog, right? You don't start with the hard. This is a mechanical skill. I was thinking of you all today because I had new draperies put up in my house, and the drapery guy was like, boop, 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 you know, he got them all in. And there was a set of draperies that they had to fix and send back to me, and I was trying to put them up before I came here, and I was like, I swear, it was like trying to get a feral pig into a burlap sack. I was like, I mean, I'm like sweating, and my dogs are like around me thinking I'm gonna die, I think. They're like, oh my God, what's wrong? And I'm like, he made it look so easy, you know? And I've had thousands of hours to practice. Heather's had thousands of hours to practice. You all really haven't, you know? And it's so much more cumbersome when it's not on automatic pilot, because you're having to make decisions all the time. You know, when it's on automatic pilot, you can actually turn your attention to environmental awareness and kind of other higher level activities to set up your training session for success. But when you're in the thick of it, really just trying to figure out the click and treat thing or the whistle and treat thing, it can feel very clunky. It can feel very clunky. And that's why, you know, I don't think one of the things I would highly recommend is, hey, when you first get here for the first 5 or 10 minutes, click, throw a treat, walk to the next kennel. Click, throw a treat. Just go through all the kennels, do a really quick throwing treats so that all dogs are like, oh, there's treats going behind us. And if everyone did that every day, you'd have dogs that saw you coming and ran to the back. Well, that's going to make getting dogs in and out 100 times easier, right? This is what we need. This is what we need. So it's not like you have to do 50 with one dog. If everyone that's how they started their shift, man, then when you start walking dogs, the pressure's off you. Because I've seen what happens when you try to get a dog out when there's reactivity issues, right? And I mean, it's total chaos, and you're trying to be calm in the midst of it, but you're basically got 2 loaded guns that are like, you're trying to juggle. It's really hard. So, everyone, we're gonna have 8 people or however many kennels there are. We're gonna do 10 click, throw a treat in the back, 10 click, throw a treat in the back, and then one person is gonna be the dog walker that's gonna walk a dog from one end of the kennel down. And like I said, my hope is we can sort of pick a neutral dog for this. And here's what's gonna happen. When the person's walking the dog that you've been clicking and treating in the kennel, when they see the dog start to walk past them, you're gonna click and throw a treat. Click and throw a treat. And then the second the dog goes by, treat stop. So I want to teach these dogs that the presence of another dog means a treat that way. Right?
Back away.
Yeah. So that way, when you have a live wire, you've got dogs giving, because part of the issue is space. You can't manipulate space. It's tight. I've been there. It's tight. So any questions about that? Yes.
Does that mean that you have to click and throw before they make a noise? Because otherwise then you're reinforcing the mark?
No.
No?
Thank you for bringing that up. I would click you, but I don't have a clicker on. How wrong is that?
A lot.
We're actually using Pavlov here and not Skinner. And typically clickers aren't used in Pavlov. And you should be confused because I didn't explain this, so thank you. So with Skinner's operant conditioning. And so how you want to think about this is the individual's operating on the environment, and the decisions or operations that you like, you click and treat so you see more of those. With Pavlov, one thing causes another. And what we want dogs to think is a dog walking by causes a treat. A dog walking by causes a treat. So if you think about Pavlov's original experiment, the dogs didn't have to do anything to get the bell to ring, right? The bell wasn't rung as a reward. In fact, the dogs could be jumping up on a lab assistant. It was like they were going to feed the dogs and they just rang a bell before the food came out. So with Pavlov, some stimulus, think of it as Pavlov's bell, and that causes treats. And again, what happens is if we create a conditioned emotional response, which is what we're after, we're trying to condition an emotional response. That's what Pavlov did. He actually conditioned an emotional response. The drooling, like I can't train a dog to drool, right? Like I can't wait for a dog to drool, click and treat it, and click and treat it, and like get that on cue. I mean, Karen Pryor probably could, but she doesn't count. She doesn't count. She's like magic. She doesn't count. So props to Karen, but no, the rest of us aren't going to be doing that. But like you cannot, one of the things that's really hard to teach a dog is to lift its leg on cue. Like natural biological behaviors are really, they're incredibly difficult to train. So what Pavlov did was found something that caused the dog to drool, paired it with a stimulus, a bell, so that the stimulus ended up creating the same response as food did. That's really what happened. So what we're looking for here is when a dog or a human being walks by, I'm going to get a treat in the back of my crate. I'm heading right there. And so we've changed their emotion so they no longer feel the need to bark. That's what we're after. That's what we're after. So, and just in general, you cannot reinforce or reward an emotion. It's actually impossible. So the frontal cortex is where decisions are considered, consequences are weighed, emotions hang out primarily in the amygdala. There's not a lot of connections between the amygdala and the frontal cortex.
No kidding.
Yeah, that's why when you're in love, you're an idiot. No, think about it. We make bad decisions all the time when we're in love. When we're in a strong emotional state, when you're really mad, you know, that's why don't push send on that email when you're ranting. Wait till the next day, right? When calmer hail, when the frontal cortex kicks in, you can reread the email and think differently. So you can't reinforce an emotion, but it seems very confusing. I know it seems very confusing.
And so in the meantime, as the dog's learning to go back there, you will end up giving him the treat while he's barking, but he's still
Yeah.
gonna learn.
Yeah.
Because the barking is not something you teach or don't teach, the
Yeah.
upset. So even if he's barking on the treat, he's gonna stop barking for a second, get his treat.
Exactly. And so then it's going to actually end up switching from Pavlov to Skinner. So here's the thing, they're not mutually exclusive. You got Pavlov on one shoulder, you got Skinner on the other. It's happening all the time. And it's not like there's a sharp division between the two. You know, so when I start working on a conditioned emotional response with, let's say, a dog that has reactivity to other dogs, which is sort of what we're talking about, in pretty short order, that dog's looking at other dogs and then looking at me and saying, do you see that other dog? Because I think that causes treats, right? It's like, yes, it does.
And then if you don't have treats, I do with my own, then she's so busy trying to say, are you sure? Are you sure? The other dogs walk by.
You missed that dog! Because I think, you know, here's the thing. We're going to have the benefit of a team being able to do this today. When you're solo, you know, it would be great if as you walked, you through, got out the door, right? And you're doing double training, but you're reinforcing the work that we've done. So I think some stuff, and this is something that we need to talk about in terms of future training, is some stuff it's really helpful if we can get together as a group and kind of, you know, mass train an idea and then flesh it out when you guys are working solo.
I know when I come on a Sunday afternoon, a lot of times there are dogs that haven't had a second walk yet. Not always, but the first thing I'm gonna do is walk down the whole line and see who, and I know many of us do something similar, it's like who hasn't been out and how long, so I can start to pick the ones that are perhaps most urgent, or if it's a crazy number and I know I'm not gonna get them all out, I'm gonna start to prioritize, but I'm gonna walk the whole long line. Usually my husband goes over and walks the short line. Well, that's a perfect opportunity. Ping, next,
Yeah.
ping,
Yeah.
next, ping. And I can easily make that a habit.
Yeah.
And here's the thing, the clicker is a nice addition, but if you don't have it, who cares? Right, because ultimately, I actually want you to be the click, right? Because when you use a click, that's Pavlov. You click and the dog goes, oh, there's gonna be a treat, right? I actually wanna replace the click with you. Oh, a person's coming, I think there's gonna be a treat. I'm gonna head towards the back.
Why don't you just start with that then, and skip the click?
Because there's too many people that walk by that don't deliver a treat. There's too many people that are irrelevant. And again, one of the things about a clicker is it's so salient, it stands out in the environment. And when there's a lot of chaos, if you're facing a dog and they hear that click, they're having a moment with you that doesn't have to be impacted by the zaniness that's going on around them. Once they get conditioned to what we want, because clickers are only used to teach new behaviors. So once we get conditioned to what we want. But I love clickers with dogs that don't know me because it really quickly establishes a shared communication. Like this language we share. This is meaningful for both of us. And once you have meaning, then you don't need the clicker. But it's a really quick way to give yourself meaning. Okay, who wants to be our clicker treaters for the first go round? All right, well, I will dole out 8 cheese sticks. 8 cheese sticks. Come my way. So you need a cheese stick and a clicker. Nancy. Cheese stick, clicker. Heather's a fan of mozzarella. I don't think it tastes strong enough for the dogs. This is where Heather and I disagree. I think it needs to taste more.
Doesn't he? He likes sharp cheddar.
Well, that's why you have to start with that flavor, right? So that's why you need, if everyone, without any dogs, walked by and took treats in the back when they started their session, then you create a history. You're not trying to create a history when there's this huge, just distraction and potential, right?
Yeah.
Did everybody get a chance to sign in?
Yeah. Okay, so, here's the thing. Once I've got the kennel key, which is scary, I should not have the kennel key. No, I should not have the kennel key. I'll be handing the kennel key off pretty soon because I'll end up losing the kennel key, which is the story of my life. Okay, so here's what we're gonna do. I wanna get 10, so you're in charge of counting. Now look, if you can't count and click at the same time, it's okay. The key there is break up your cheese into 10 pieces, right? Then you know. You don't have to think. Everything's gonna be okay.
The first one before you go to the count.
Yes. Yeah, so I click, and then, and remember, I found this to be true. It took 2 or 3 throws for the dogs when I was up there working a couple of weeks ago to even know something was flying past them, right? So, and it's a good idea. It's not that you can't feed them through the kennel, but if you're gonna be doing multiple dogs, for health reasons, it's better if your hand's not touching the dog, right? Because if one dog's got some physical issue, you don't wanna move it on down the line, right? So it's better to pitch. Some dogs I did pitch through, but I actually, I think that if we all that's another thing, you need to practice throwing behind them. You need to practice pitching. It's a valuable skill in dog training, what can I tell you? It is.
And the flicking for the cat.
Yes, the flicking for the cats, it's awesome, isn't it? Okay, so first group, we're all gonna go up there. First group's gonna get 10 clicks and treats in. Who's gonna be our dog walker? We need one neutral dog to walk past. Excellent, thank you. I'm gonna give you a click and treat too. All right, so let's head up, people.